This is episode number 254 of the Homeowner Show. Well, whether you're DIY or looking to hire, we're here to help you find the best information and options for you and your home. My name is Kevin Hackett, and here with me is Craig Williams.
Hello, and welcome to the Homeowner Show. We're so glad you could join us for another live episode here from the elusive Homeowner Show studios.
Elusive.
That's right. How you doing, Kev?
Oh, man, I'm good. I actually, I just got back from a whole nother country.
Whole other country.
We are
different homeowners in those countries.
You know what? It's very different. We took a group down to Honduras to do some mission work down there, and man, it's a different place, man. It definitely gives you some perspective on where we live and some of the things that we're afforded each and every day, like little things like electricity, like running water, things that seem like a no-brainer for us, and things that are just something else that we always have is an absolute luxury in areas down there. So, So that's.
Do you want to confess your illicit activity in said foreign country?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
There wasn't some border shenanigans?
Well, I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter, right?
I don't know. Is there a consulate to the Honduran government here in Houston?
I doubt it.
Okay.
And even if there is, I can tell you about some stuff we saw. And we had fun.
Oh, I just want to draw a suspicious eye to the world of the internet right on you.
Well, I'll just put it this way: like, there are certain places that it's pretty easy to get into other countries.
Okay.
All right.
Not that you would ever do any such things.
Well, why would we?
Right.
I mean,
what's the benefit?
I mean, unless you just need to have lunch in another place and just say that you did, maybe.
So that's your defense, is like, why would I ever do such a thing?
Right.
As that?
Right.
Yeah.
What's the point?
You're like an actor. What's my motivation?
Right. You tell me. But I will say this, like, we had a group with us, and we were coming back in the country and going through customs. I was like, now, if anybody asks, we've only been in one country. And this one kid that's with me, he goes, oh, except for that one time. Remember that one time whenever we did that one thing? And then
no one remembers that.
Exactly.
If you say that, we're all going to leave you here.
When I told him, I said, look, here's the deal. We're still not in America. You think that we're in America. We're not.
Write your memoirs in 20 years, kid.
That's right. I said, we're still not in the United States of America. If, here's the deal. If you went to Nicaragua while on this trip, that's fine.
That's right.
I didn't.
We didn't do a thing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I will straight up sell you out, kid.
Exactly. I'm like, look, you better call your mama or somebody, because I'm not taking this for you. So
I think that's fair.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'll be doing a lot better once my water heater gets replaced.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
What did it start leaking?
It started leaking.
That's typically like how you know your water heater's going out. It just starts leaking.
It just starts leaking.
Yeah.
So like it's in my opinion, it's like in the worst place. Like, it's on the second floor.
Why in the world do they do that?
Why is anything the way it is in my house? I don't know.
Well, that's true, but like, so many people, especially in the Houston area, have their water heater up in the attic.
In the attic. That's the one that gets me. I don't get that. I'm not kidding, man. I have had 5 different customers now who have gone on vacation and come back home to their homes completely flooded.
Yeah.
And the water's just like, it just decided to start leaking the day they left.
Right.
And it ran the whole time, destroyed the home.
Yep.
And they were out of their house for 6 months.
Yep. And here's the deal.
And every time it's because it's the water heater's in the attic.
Yeah. And here's the deal. I mean, like, the problem is you don't know your water heater is going to go bad. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, it's going to rust out. It's going to happen. So whenever it does, the smart thing to do is to put a water detector on it.
One of those leak detector things?
Yeah, one of those leak detector things.
Yeah.
But the problem is the majority of those are just a beep. That's all that happens. They start beeping. So that if you're in the house, you can be like, hey, what's that beeping? You go explore where the beeping is. You find out, hey, I got water in the pan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're going to spend the money to get a Wi-Fi one, don't waste your money.
Sure.
Like
It's just gonna beep.
Like especially if you're going out of town, right? Like I know that the leak detectors are still good, but even if you're going to be out of town for the weekend, like I'm headed out to Dallas or something for the weekend, right? Like something's going to happen. So I don't understand putting it in the attic, man. I don't get it.
Me either. Like, and it freaks me out every time I go open one and I see like 3 of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Like, how would you even know if it is leaking? You wouldn't know.
No.
You wouldn't know.
No.
Until it like just has destroyed your insulation.
Comes through the roof.
Yeah. So anyway, so we caught it early.
Good.
And I told you before, we're getting it replaced. We're having to have some. Part of the reason it's going to be the price that it is because we're having to have some work done to the plumbing adjacent to the water heater in order to make it work. Because like everything else that was done in our house prior to us getting here, it was done by a cockeyed drunk and not done properly. Like the guy was out here today and he's like, yeah, I haven't seen a gas connection like that in like over 30 years. And I'm like, oh, that sounds about right. He probably like tore it out of a house that had been demoed back in the 50s. I'm like, this will work.
This will work.
Yeah. So anyway, I asked him, I was like, hey, I mean, what if we were interested in going with tankless? Oh,
yeah. It's a great question. I mean, the problem with that is you have to have a 3/4 inch line coming in.
That was the problem.
It's always the problem.
Yep.
He's got a 1/2 inch, right?
He's got a 1/2 inch. Yep. So couldn't do it. So,
of course not.
But here's the thing, man. Like I told you how much the one that we're getting is going to be.
Yeah, that was actually shocking. And we talked about this for just a moment because I was like, what, like $1,500?
I'm not mentioning the price just because our friends Paul the plumber are taking care of it for us. I don't want people to think that that's going to be the price. I don't know that that's their normal price.
It's more than I expected it to be. I'll put it there.
So sure, but I think that's because of all the additional work on top of just installing the water heater.
Seems reasonable to me.
And I would imagine it's going to be quite a bit of work.
Yeah.
The tankless was going to be over $6,000.
Ooh.
That was like, and he was like, we can't do it, but it would be this much.
Because is that to do like the kind that has the returns and everything to where it stays hot all the time?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's ways
I think they typically install the Renai.
Well, those are the best.
So
I mean, those are the best. They're the most reliable. They're the name brand.
Right.
They everywhere you have a water source, they've got the hot water return. So that you're constantly getting hot water immediately.
Have you seen these tiny electric source water heaters?
Yeah, I mean they just go like just like
underneath the sink.
Yeah, they're like $30 a piece or something.
They're a little bit more than that, but
okay.
yeah. No, they're like $100.
Okay,
but I mean,
but it gives you instant heat, right?
You don't have to run a second supply line.
Yeah.
You just have to have the one cold water supply line to the sink. And then you can wire it off from there into hot and cold just underneath the sink.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, especially if you're doing
like new construction add-ons and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saves a lot of money.
Saves a lot of money because you're not having to trench new pipe.
Right.
Yeah.
And
honestly, I mean,
most of the time those are like little powder rooms and things like that you're adding on.
Like if you're trying to do like a shower, I don't obviously
probably
recommend
not a great
it.
idea. Yeah.
But like if you're just trying to, wash your face or whatever.
Yep. And that's typically where I've seen them is a sink in like a pool bathroom.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Absolutely.
And so super smart.
Sure.
Obviously it's not going to be like a massive seller across the home market, but for those very specific situations like what you're talking about, work great.
Sure.
So anyway, we got a cool show for you guys tonight. We've got some stories in the news, some old, some new, that we want to get to. Which one you want to get to first, Kev?
Let's go.
You want to go in order?
Let's go in order.
What's first?
Old is first, right?
Right. So this is an interesting one. This happened back in March, I believe, actually here in the Houston area. And Kevin and I were actually watching the video. So the headline on this, and this is from March 24th of this year, it says, woman claims trespassers moved into her Meyerland rental home and changed her locks.
Sorry, I don't know where to go with that. Where else to go with that other than start laughing? I'm sorry.
So the way the story goes is this woman, Linda, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. I'm going to go Yang, own a home in Houston in South Braeswood, which is a fairly nice area of Houston.
Sure.
And the rent on the home is $3,600 a month. Right?
Jeez, that's so much money.
It's a lot of money. And honestly, like, that house isn't much bigger than mine.
No.
And I don't live in a very big house, y'all. Like, no. I opted for land more than I did house.
Sure.
So anyway, they were getting the house. Well, the plan was they were getting the house ready to rent.
Right.
So she decided to show up on the property with the landscaping company to get it all straightened up and cleaned up. And she went to go inside the house, and she noticed that there were 5 people inside that she did not know.
Womp womp.
Went to the door, tried to use her key, which no longer worked.
Womp womp.
So she called the police.
Of course, as you do.
The police showed up and said, "Oh, it's a rental house. This is a civil matter. Sorry, we can't help."
Oh my gosh! Like this is like a nightmare of a story,
right?
For a landlord.
Well, I think, and like as I dug into the story a little bit more, I think it's actually a nightmare story for both of them.
Yeah. So we watched a video of
the interview
of
this said trespasser.
It's an interview that was probably anonymously done. I don't even know who the person was.
Yeah, well, we can post a link up to it later.
Okay, yeah. But basically, this interviewer was going, "Hey, why are you living in someone else's house?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "I'm not. Like, this is the house that we put a lease on.
Yep.
We have a lease agreement. We paid $6,000 to get into this lease agreement."
Yep.
And the lady's going, "Where's the lease?" And she was like, "We gave it to the realtor." She's like, "Who's the name of the realtor?" She's like, "It's on the lease. You can go find it yourself." And she's like, "I'm telling you, the person that owns this home doesn't have a lease from you."
Yeah.
You know?
Well, she was even saying, she's like, "I saw the lease. It's not a real lease."
Not a real lease.
And the lady was trying to explain. She's like, "Look, we paid $6,000. We moved here from California." I think these people got taken as well.
Sure, because what's interesting is, like, the lady goes, "We have video of you changing the locks," and the lady's like, "I'm done talking to you."
That's right.
It was like, she probably does, because we changed the locks.
Yeah,
but it's because we thought we were supposed to. You know?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So, and the whole thing ends, like they have like a back and forth, sort of confrontation on this. Is like, "Why are you trespassing?" "I'm not trespassing. I have a lease. I pay." And like you can imagine her frustration, because like like you have to imagine in her head she's realizing what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, I got taken.
Right.
The only thing I can fall back on is
I have a lease.
And I paid somebody $6,000.
Right.
Please don't make this worse than it already is.
Right.
And they're unwilling to go, and so like they had to go into what do they call it? Eviction.
Oh yeah. Which that's like
that's such a long process.
That's the last thing that a landlord wants to do, is evict someone.
Yeah,
like,
and so anyone reading this story that doesn't have a home just learned a lesson.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? I need to figure out a way to get inside and don't come out until I change the locks.
Yep.
And once I do that, I've probably bought myself 3 to 6 months worth of free housing.
Right.
I mean, like, it's ridiculous, man. And I understand why they have protections in place for renters. I really do. But this kind of stuff is ridiculous.
I mean, this is like a whole different level of crime, right?
Well, like, I mean, again, I'm not convinced that these people are knowingly committed a crime.
But not the person living in the house,
right?
But the person that sold them the lease.
Yeah, the one who probably was impersonating a real estate agent.
Yeah, going after $6,000 off of these people and just being like laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, which I mean, that's not unheard of to get a deposit.
Sure, no,
for a property.
No, if it's $3,600 of rent a month, who knows?
Sure,
maybe they're going, look, it's $3,000 a month, so you're going to have to pay a deposit of $3,000 plus the first month up front.
Yep. So
you give me $6,000, and that's totally legitimate.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, the first thing you need to do is you need to change the locks. Like, and maybe the realtor paid them to here's money to the quote unquote realtor. Here's money. Go change the locks, right?
Yeah.
Like
if you act confidently with a locksmith,
sure.
you're like, oh yeah, this is I represent this property. I need you to change the locks.
Right.
Dude, real estate agents call and ask me to do stuff for them all the time for properties they have no vested interest in, other than that they're represented an interested party.
Yeah.
And they have the authority to do that.
Yeah, they have protections in place to be able to do that too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because it's the whole inspection process, right? Like you got to get it inspected, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's important.
Well, and sometimes real estate agents I'll be like, hey, do we have permission from the homeowner to be here? And they're like, no, I'm paying for this myself. And I'm like, that's not the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very different. So
it's like, I understand who's paying.
Right.
I don't want to be sued.
Right. The difference is I don't want your money. I want the homeowner's money. I still want to get paid, but by the right legal party.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least,
or written consent.
Consent would be great.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I don't care who pays for it. Show me the homeowner's okay with it.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And as we all know, you're only a homeowner after you get the keys.
That's right.
Because
you cannot,
up until that moment, do not bring a gas can onto my property.
Well, there's lots of things you can't do as a buyer.
No.
Even if they have your offer accepted and all this kind of it gets but
everything has to be done.
Buyers think they can do all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they can't.
No.
So, but anyway, the way this ends, she makes an interesting argument. She says, if somebody steals your vehicle, then the police would come out and catch them and say, you're the thief. We're going to put you in jail.
Yeah.
Why can't they do the same for the house? That's her question. And she's right in that there's more laws protecting renters than there are owners.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of people understand sort of the American way of life to be life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Which I want to say is Adam, not Adam, is John Locke.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Is that John Locke? Or it could be Adam Smith. I can't remember which one. You looking it up?
I'm looking it up. Jefferson.
No, it's not Jefferson.
Jefferson's Rough Draft.
Well, I know Jefferson's the one that said life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes, that's what I thought you asked.
The original phrasing of that was life, liberty, property.
Oh.
And
life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness? Or life, liberty, property only?
Life, liberty, and property. I think it's John Locke.
Keep talking. I'm going to find this.
You're going to find it?
Yes.
So anyway, the original phrasing was life, liberty, property. No, like the original philosophy was life, liberty, property. And
John Locke.
Ha-ha!
You're right.
Anyway, the idea behind that was like these are essential rights that everyone has inherently. Yeah. Life, liberty, property.
Yep.
Jefferson added the pursuit of happiness, and that sort of became the American motif. But the original idea was that like property ownership, the ability to own property.
Yeah.
And part of that was because it wasn't a given at his time.
No, what I'm reading here is it says, basically the idea of being equal and independent, that no one should be able to harm somebody else with, regard to their life, their health, their liberty, their possessions.
Right.
And what really that comes down to is that there's this property of a person. And the idea of the things that it takes for me to be a person, you can't harm that. That's the whole idea.
Well, and the extensions of that. This is why back in the day people took horse and cattle thieves so seriously.
That's right.
They would hang them.
Oh yeah.
With haste.
Right. Well, because that's their livelihood.
It's their stuff.
You stole something that allowed that person to live.
Right.
Right.
So anyway, that's what this person's essential complaint is. Like, look, this is my property, and like someone else is using it without my consent,
right,
without compensation. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
And it's like, well, we'll go through the proper legal channel. Well, the problem is that, what if this is this person's first investment property?
Oh man.
Jeez. And someone squats on it and
Yep.
then sits there for 6 months. So they're paying the mortgage
right
on that property,
Right.
Unless they paid cash somehow. But they're more than likely paying the note.
Yep.
Every month.
Every month.
Without
And now not only are you not getting paid to pay the mortgage, now you're having to go through the eviction process,
which costs money.
And not, time, money, and all energy. I mean, all of the things that you really need. Time, money, and energy, like that's really kind of what you need to run a business. And you're spending all of it in order to
getting nothing in return.
Especially whenever you're doing things in good faith, Yep.
Like
that's the rough part of that is like, look, I'm doing everything right. Why am I being the one punished by it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, yep. So, well, and then in that same vein, we've got this story coming out of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Yeah.
That they are about to drop their own currency, their own collaborative currency.
Yeah.
And the reason, I don't know if you were out of the country, but a lot of cryptocurrency shot up quite a bit after the announcement of this.
Ooh, I need to go look.
Not that much.
Oh, man.
Not that much.
Well, trust me, at this point, it's like, can I get my investment back? Like, just what I spent. Probably not.
You leave it in there long enough, it'll come back around.
It'll come back, surely.
But anyway, so they have decided to collaborate on a currency. The big hubbub about this one is that it's going to be gold backed.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know, that if you live in the United States, our currency for the longest time was actually based on a gold reserve. That was the whole point of Fort Knox?
Yeah.
Fort Knox.
Absolutely.
And that's where America stole a large portion of their gold.
Yeah.
But I think it was like in 73 or 74, Nixon took the American currency off the gold standard.
Right.
And it became kind of a petro reserve dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how it's been operating ever since then.
And everybody, that's the thing that's weird about currency to me, man. Like, everybody just agrees on it.
Right.
That's really all currency really is.
It's all
Unless,
it is.
even if it's backed by gold, like, it's still someone agreeing that piece of paper or that, coin is got a value to it.
Right.
I mean, even whenever we were in Honduras, like, people love getting paid in dollars because over there,
they're worth
it's like
a lot.
a 1 to 23 ratio.
Right.
Right. So it's worth a whole lot. But here, what we're talking about here is they're really trying, with all the things that they're trying to do, the biggest thing is they're trying to dethrone the dollar.
Right.
That
is the biggest thing.
That's the biggest thing they're trying to do.
So they're trying to economically manipulate the United States.
That's
or
it.
economically take down the United States.
That's exactly right.
Without saying that's what they're doing.
And look, you get a currency that's backed by gold like that, between these types of countries that are large,
They're
fairly influential,
emerging economic powers.
exactly.
Yeah.
It could absolutely do what they're hoping it could do.
Yeah, and we bring it up just because it has the potential to we're just got done talking about John Locke and life, liberty, and property. It could devalue all of your property
Sure.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Because if all of a sudden the American currency is not worth what it was, that means that the things that you have that you bought with said currency are no longer worth what they were when you bought them.
That's right.
So that $300,000 home or a condo that you bought could easily be worth $100,000.
Absolutely.
Overnight.
Absolutely.
Depending on how quickly this currency gets into the ecosystem, and people begin to use it, people begin to trust it. And with it being backed by gold, it's more likely to have a high level of trust.
That's right.
What currencies used to be called promissory notes.
Yeah.
And it was the case at one point in time that you could take a promissory note to a bank and they would have to give you the gold or the silver certificates
Attached to that.
and they'd have to give you the physical gold.
That's right.
Or the physical silver attached to that coin or promissory note.
That's right.
That was a huge deal that happened back in the 70s.
Sure. And the other thing,
I don't know. Do you know this? That when he did that he also mandated that it was illegal to possess gold.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's bizarre.
Well,
I mean, I get it. I understand why.
yeah, it's because he wanted to force people to use the currency.
That's right.
And so it wasn't until pretty recently we were allowed to actually own physical gold again, other than jewelry.
Yeah, sure. By the way, just putting it out there, it's not just the dollar they're trying to dethrone, the euro too.
Yeah.
But that's just because those are the two biggest powers that there are. But yeah, I mean that it's a little bizarre that, I mean, when I think about, and I'm sure most people in this part of the world that have good jobs and, you know, doing fine for themselves would probably say the same thing. All of my all of my money is kind of theoretical.
Yeah.
Because where the majority of my money is in somebody else's possession on a computer,
hard drive.
on a hard drive somewhere that says you have this money in this money market, you have this money in a savings, you have this money in the checking account, you have this much money that you can put onto a piece of plastic. Like, it's all pretty theoretical, and I would bet, again, just a guess here, I would bet that most people have less than $1,000 cash on them.
I would imagine that's, well, the number that they keep passing around is that most American families don't have access to $1,000.
Right.
Month to month.
Right. That's month to month to month. And that's not just because they don't have it liquid. That's because they just don't have it.
They didn't have it. Yeah.
But on top of that, I'm talking about like physical currency.
Mm-hmm.
Most people probably don't have $1,000 on them.
Right.
And when you start thinking about that, it's kind of, to me, there's something a little unsettling about that.
Yeah.
About the fact that I have money. I put money into IRAs. I put money into my savings. I put money into mutual funds, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, if someone wants to tell me I don't have that anymore,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what would happen. I just know it would not be good. I would not be in a good place.
Yeah. So I wanted to look this up because I noticed it right after the announcement. So gold and silver, they were both up today, but gold has gotten the closest it's gotten to crossing the $2,000 per ounce threshold.
Wow.
And this was the one that kind of shocked me. Over the course of like 2 days, silver went up over 5%. And it's now comfortably resting over $25 an ounce.
Interesting.
Let me put that in perspective for you, everybody. I bought a ton of silver 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was paying $14, $15, $16 an ounce.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was like,
it's a lot of money.
This feels feels expensive.
Yeah.
And now I'm like really happy with myself.
Sure.
Wish I would have bought more.
Right.
And I
It's
don't,
almost doubled.
It's almost doubled. And you know, I'm looking at it going, that may not be a bad price to buy.
Yeah.
Because if they keep doing this, it's probably just going to keep going up.
Going up. Yeah, well, we'll have to.
Well, I mean, like in American dollar terms, it will absolutely have to, because if our currency gets devalued, it's going to take more to buy. So, necessarily the price will go up.
It'll have to. Yep. Interestingly enough, passed through some gold mines in Honduras.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. They can still find gold up there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, well, and then so we have some Forbes released some housing predictions that's related to some of this kind of stuff. So the average, so in regards to home sales,
yeah,
because all of this stuff affects that, and one of the things that actually drives the American economy is home sales. This is why this subject is, for us at least, an interesting one, because
we keep coming back to real estate.
Right.
There's a reason we keep coming back to real estate. And it's not just because we're the homeowner show.
Yeah, it is at the core of what this show is about.
It is.
I mean, like,
but
owning
still,
a home.
It's about owning the home. And it's like, what are you going to be able to do to own the home?
Right. So I mean, these are just straight numbers from LendingTree on the average mortgage. So the average fixed rate 30-year loan right now is going for 6.38% on the rate. 15-year note is 5.75, and then a 5/1 ARM is 6.5. And the average loan amount is $225,000.
Really?
Yeah.
That actually seems a little high.
For a loan?
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about averages,
yeah.
I mean, I think about the first house that I bought.
Well, I think you obviously you have a lot of diamonds out there.
Sure, of course.
That skew the numbers.
Of course.
So that doesn't sound too far off for me. If you're thinking in terms of like homes like being 3.2s,
sure.
I think across the U.S. that's not a terrible average considering the market that we've been in.
That's the point. Considering the market we've been in, because I would say 5 years ago, a 3.2 that was maybe 1,800, 2,000 square feet.
Yeah, average America, I would think 175.
That's kind of, yeah. And so I think that whenever you start looking at, and maybe that's why that number is at 225, is just because of the skewed numbers of the $2.5 million homes or whatever. Which, by the way, did you see that motocross? I don't know if it's motocross, but the dirt bike track.
That's up for sale?
It's up for sale.
It's like $6.5 million or something?
6.9, yeah.
Okay.
6.9 million.
It's a pretty good size, but like
it is. But it's completely in a floodplain.
Oh yeah,
like that thing.
I've seen that thing flood so many times.
Oh yeah. It's only good for what it is. I mean, really,
dirt bike track and skiing.
That's right.
Yeah, that's all it's good for.
Yeah.
I mean, even the buildings that they have on there, they've all been flooded.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to, if you had seen, but
I did see it went up for sale.
Yeah, that's commercial. So that didn't count in what we're talking about.
It's commercial. It's highway frontage. It's a massive size of property.
It's 197 acres or something.
I mean, about the only other thing that you could do with it is a gun range.
Yeah.
And you could do a pretty impressive like skeet shooting, clay thing out there.
Yeah.
But we have those.
Right. It'd have to be really good.
Well, I mean, and you would have to completely redo everything to make it work for that. So you're not only talking about like this almost $7 million to buy the property. Mm-hmm. You're probably going to have to invest another $2 million to get it to do something like that. Right. So it's almost, clear. Here's the thing, man, if the business was killing it for what it is, they wouldn't be selling it.
Sure.
So it clearly doesn't work.
Right.
Like very well, unless there's
also some stuff going on with the owner.
Is that what's going on?
From what I understand, there's a little bit of legal things going on with him.
But like the only way I could see a property like that working really well is if you had a big name behind it.
Sure. You start putting a name behind a dirt bike.
Right. If you had like an X Games guy that came in and bought it, it was like, hey, this is going to be
Tony Hawk buys that thing or something,
then it becomes a theme park.
Sure it does.
Yeah.
But
I don't think that's going to happen.
Nah, I doubt it.
I mean, like everybody that
if Dave Mira comes in and buys it, like
who's that?
He's a BMX guy.
Okay.
But like guy like that, that's their thing.
Yeah.
I guess.
But like guys like that, I don't know that they necessarily want to be in Texas.
Probably
like
not.
Especially right now where it's like 104 degrees outside.
Today was brutal.
It's the worst.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know about yours, but like my dogs, like every time I see them, they're like, I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm trying. We've got little pools for them to get in and stuff. Yeah. Like my Bernedoodle like hates the water. My Golden Doodle's like, give me all the water. My Bernedoodle we have to like put into a pool or something to cool her off every once in a while. Oh my gosh, it's so freaking hot. It's crazy how hot it is.
So have you heard about splooting?
No, I don't think so.
No. So it's this phenomenon with squirrels.
Oh.
When it gets so hot, you'll actually see them on the ground, like splayed out.
Oh,
Like this. And they're always like, anytime it gets this time of year and it gets like up in the hundreds, there's always like these reports that come in. It's like, that squirrel's not dead. He's just splooting. Leave him alone. He's trying to cool off. You haven't seen pictures of this?
No, but all I know is the people from Louisiana is like, that's the best time to get them things.
That's right.
They ain't going nowhere. Sorry, people. You know I'm right.
Yeah, no. Like, dude, my son is intent on going squirrel hunting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like we just went out and kind of sighted in his 22. So
okay, that's awesome.
We bought Steve Rinella's new book.
Oh, okay.
Catch a Crayfish, Count the Stars. Have I shown it to you?
No.
I'll show it to you after it's an activity book for kids outdoors.
Oh, cool.
And so it's like all these things that you can do, and like it's thick, man. It's like,
really,
yeah, and it's like all pictures and like instructions and stuff. And like one of the things is skinning a squirrel.
Interesting.
And he's like, so I told all my kids, we bought the book. Shout out to Steve Rinella, fantastic book. My kids are huge fans. They watch Meat Eater and like, they love listening to the trivia show that they do. So I told all my kids, I was like, hey, I bought you this book. I want you to each pick out one thing that you want all of us to do together this summer. And so like my son, like he was like, well, I want to do this one or this one. And I was like, why? And he goes, because it'll gross up my sisters.
That's the best thing ever.
And it was skinning a squirrel or gutting a fish. And I was like, do you really want to do that? And he goes, no, I just want to see them have to do it.
Oh,
I was like, you know you have to do this too, right? And he's like, I know, it's worth it.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
And I don't know, your youngest, I think she'd probably be all about it.
Well, I don't know, man.
Really?
Oh, yeah. She fusses at me about my job all the time. She's like,
yeah.
You know those are living creatures that God created. And I'm like, yes, I know that.
Right.
It's still my job.
And they're what?
Like
awful.
Daddy? Like that's the like
Daddy?
You know, Daddy?
Oh, I see it.
Don't you know?
Gosh.
Like
I see the attitude. Like as you're saying that, I see it visually in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, yes, I know they're horrible creatures.
Well, at the same time, the other day, I watched her stalk a giant grasshopper.
Oh, speaking of giant grasshoppers, let me tell you, they got like wolf-eating grasshoppers in Honduras.
Oh, really?
I'm not kidding you, dude. Like this big.
Those are the ones people are eating.
Oh, they're definitely, because I'm not kidding you. They're 4 or 5 inches long.
Yeah.
They're
huge.
They're huge, and when they start like flapping, like they have a hard time flying because they're so big. They're so big. Their bodies,
their wings that come out of those things,
huge.
Yeah,
and they're like red. So like the grasshoppers,
the wings are red, or the grasshoppers are red.
Well, some of them are they're kind of either a green or a brown. But it's kind of a reddish tint brown, and whenever the wings come out, the wings are red.
Interesting.
And
I need to go see this.
Man, they are massive. I've got a picture of one somewhere. The other thing I got a picture. Have you seen those? They're like a leaf bug.
A leaf bug,
but they're huge. They look and mimic. They look like and mimic a leaf, and so like the way they move, they flutter just a little bit as if they were like blowing in the wind.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Huh.
Yeah, I'll show you a picture when we're done.
Interesting.
So, yeah, we're way off the topic.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think we kind of covered it.
Okay.
I mean, Forbes is basically saying like, hey, when's the bottom going to drop out of this thing?
Yeah.
Like something's been propping it up. We don't know what it is. And a lot of people are still calling for like a commercial real estate bubble to pop.
Yeah.
Which who knows, man. One of the things that they did say is that purchase applications have increased for the 3rd consecutive week, and it's talking about this month, or not. I guess that was last month. Purchase applications increased for the 3rd consecutive week to the highest level of activity since early May, but they're still 20% lower than a year ago.
Wow. 20% is quite a bit.
Yeah. And so even though you've seen them week over week increase, and I think part of that is people are beginning to adjust to the idea like these are the interest rates. It's really not going to change.
Sure.
And so it's just become normalized. And so as people like accept it, they're like, well, like you were saying before, I got to move anyway. I'm just going to have to bite the bullet. And,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, at some point you got to go, well, I've just got to do it.
Yeah.
I can't wait forever. And look, when we were looking to purchase the house that we purchased a little over a year ago, we had a lot of people that were like, man, you're crazy.
Sure.
You're crazy to sell right now because, yes, you got a lot of money for your house, but what are you going to turn around and buy? And we're like, well, look, we're trying to figure it out. But the way we looked at it is like our kids are not getting younger. That part of the reason we want to move where we want to move is we want to get our kids a little bit of space, a little bit of room.
Yeah.
We want to give them some things. We wanted them as well. It's like at some point you just got to make a move. You got to do it if you can. And if that means you have to buy less than what you really thought you could buy, you got to, I mean, you said it, you would rather have the land than the house. Like, figure out what you want, and something's going to be out there. It's just, you may have to search for it, but.
I will confess, I am odd in this regard. Like, I don't mind, like, buying a crap hole if I get the land that I want.
At the end of the day, the house is worth pennies in comparison to land, and it will always be.
This was like one of our first fights as like a married couple. Like I literally tried to move us into a shack.
I believe that.
And she was like, "I'm not living in that thing." I was like, "I'll make it fine.
Yeah,
it'll be great." It was like on 2.5 acres, and it was like the most we could afford.
Sure,
I just wanted the land.
Right.
And she was like, "I'm not living in that thing." And
she won.
She won.
Yeah.
But like I told her, I was like, "You win," but like we made a deal. I was like, look, I will do this. I will buy this hellhole of a neighborhood property.
Yeah.
I'm not staying here longer than 5 years.
Right.
I'm building equity and I'm getting out.
Right.
And she's like, that's fine. That's fine. Let's do that. She lived up to her word.
Yeah.
And so like it wasn't the worst thing I've ever had to do.
Sure.
I hated every minute of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and here's the thing: once you've lived on land, it like going back to a neighborhood.
Yeah,
like
that is what she will tell you now, like because she never did.
Yeah.
As a kid.
Yeah, my wife either.
And and now she's like, look, we can't move.
Right.
The only way you're getting me to move is if I get more land.
More land.
And I'm like, I know. I'm right there with you.
Exactly. Yeah, it is really funny. I mean, like we were driving through a neighborhood. Not too long. It's a really nice neighborhood. We were driving through this neighborhood, and I was going, I would hate living here. I would absolutely hate living here. And it was a neighborhood. It was a neighborhood right next to my house, and they've got multiple $1 million homes in that neighborhood. But there is a section of it that is just house, and I'm like, I would hate that.
Right.
I would not want that.
I will,
but that's me.
I will say this: I grew up in both as a kid.
Okay,
I grew up in little tiny neighborhoods, and then when I got to be a teenager, we had land.
Yeah,
not a whole lot, but some land.
Yeah.
For my younger kids, land has been harder because there's not as many kids to play in the street with.
It definitely changes that.
And all that kind of stuff. So we have to be a little bit more intentional about that kind of stuff. So that's been hard. And it's also like when I was, but like, the thing is, when I was a kid, it wasn't a big deal for my parents to let me take my bicycle and then go around and down a few streets and go play in the woods.
Not at all.
I would never in a million years let my kids do that now.
Nope.
Like it's just I got freaked out today when I lost sight of them in academy.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I get it.
And I'm not saying I don't think that there's this big deal with the film that just came out, The Sound of Freedom. And I don't think that the message that film is portraying is a bad one at all.
Oh, sure.
It's bringing to light awareness. A truth that's been existing in our country and in other countries for years. And being aware of that kind of stuff, like I have for a long time because of some organizations that I work with, like it freaks me out to not be near my children when I'm out in public. Just because I know bad stuff can happen so fast. But, so property gives me that insulation, but it also,
it isolates too.
But like what I meant, at the end of the day, even if I lived in a neighborhood where they were like, I would want to be outside watching my kids play. Be where they, not to helicopter, but to like, just to make sure that there's not any weirdos around.
No, I know. We just came from a neighborhood like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, we loved the neighborhood that we were in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I felt like I had to be outside with them all the time. And now, I don't feel like that.
Right.
They can go outside. They know not to leave the property.
Yep.
And I'm happy. I just know they're okay. The thing that I do agree with though, and I was talking to one of our friends today. They're trying to sell their house and buy another one, and she was like, "Look, I just realized she stayed at our house before, and she's like, look, I just realized that as much as I like the idea of living out a little bit, and as much as I like the idea of having land," she said, "I like to be 5 minutes from the grocery store, and I like knowing that my kids can go next door and play with their friends."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, those are two valid things. And there are two things that I have sacrificed in order to live where I live. You're exactly right.
I have this one valid thing. I mean, like, I'm sorry, 5-minute drive to the grocery store.
But that's what she wants.
Sure. Okay.
And so for her, it's valid. Like for me, I've come to grips with it. I don't care that much.
Uh-huh.
But for her, that's a big deal. So, okay, great. To each their own, right?
No, some people are just dumb. Like, look, I mean, like, okay, like when we moved in the property that we're at now, people were like, what's wrong with you? There's nothing close to you. I'm like, what's far away from me that I need?
Actually, y'all are way closer to stuff than we are.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so like if you position yourself properly, you can get what you need.
Sure. And stuff's going to come to us.
Like I'm sorry. Like to trade a 12,000 square foot lot for a 4-acre lot.
Yeah.
For 5 minutes of grocery time,
worth it.
Nah.
Because at the end of the day, guess how many grocery stores I have to pass every single day to do pretty much anything.
Yeah.
I got to pass all of them.
And like, okay, so like I actually like going to the grocery store.
I do too.
My wife hates going to the grocery store.
I like it.
She hasn't been to the grocery store, I bet you, in over 2 years.
Why does she need to?
She doesn't. She curbsides everything.
Exactly.
She's like, I want to go in.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to.
I don't think I told you a story. I had a lady not too long. This was probably, I say not too long. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And she said something. I told her, I was like, yeah, we're going to do grocery pickup. And it's kind of a little bit newer 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, people were doing it all over, but it was still somewhat new. And she goes, I just don't like that grocery pickup for young families. And I said, what? For young families, why? And she goes, well, you need to teach your kids how to act whenever they're in a grocery store. And I said, why? And she goes, well, because they need to understand that when there are other people around, they act a certain way. I said, what makes you think they're ever going to go to a grocery store? Like, why do they need to go to a grocery store ever?
It's a black tie event, Kevin.
I'm sorry. I don't see your point.
Well, I understand like that your children need to understand how to behave
in public. I agree with her on that. But her reasoning of the grocery store,
the grocery store is not the line in the sand.
No, like the grocery store literally will come to me. I don't
take them to church.
Correct. There are plenty of other places.
And most of the people there are willing to correct your children for you.
That's right. And believe it or not, that's where I was when we were having the conversation.
He's right there. You want to spank him?
That's right. He's your responsibility.
He's probably thinking about something he shouldn't.
Right.
Go get him.
Go get him.
Knock yourself out.
Anyway, I just thought it was like you said, it was a funny way to come about it, because the grocery stores where they need to learn how to behave in public. I'm like, lady, look, I hear what you're saying. I get it.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're going to go to the
That
grocery
is
store that
really,
much.
that's not where I thought that was going. I really thought it was like they need to know how to pick out a good banana.
No, because again,
Which to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, like I can get behind that. Like you
Right.
need to know how to pick out produce. That's fine.
well, yeah, because the people that are getting it for you in the pickup
They
don't know what
suck.
they're doing. They do not know what they're doing. They couldn't care less what they give you.
Yeah.
So, listen, if you own a grocery store, HEB, I'm looking at you, because they're listening right now.
Oh yeah, of course.
You need to hire, whenever you hire these pickers, I think that's what they're called,
I think so.
pickers. Whenever you hire the pickers, please, I don't care what else you teach them how to pick good produce, and you will have a higher success rate.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think this is an interesting one. Would you rather them be better at picking produce
or meat.
or meat?
I mean, I think that here's the thing. I think if you learn to become a good produce picker, then meat's going to be pretty simple.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, because I think that there's so many nuances in all the different types of produce that's out there. I mean, between a lime, goodness gracious, it's hard to pick a lime if you don't know what you're talking. A watermelon, come on.
Yeah.
Like people don't know how to pick a watermelon. Like even I don't know, onions and different things. There's all different things. You come to meat and it's like, okay, learn the different cuts of meat and learn what makes one thing better than the other. Now here's what would be the kicker for me is if we could like start making requests about the type of meat that I want.
Okay.
Like pick me out a piece of meat that's this.
Okay.
Like this thickness or, this color or whatever, like this amount of marbling. If you want to start going down that road, if you could do that and you could have people that would actually get you that type of thing, I think it's a game changer.
With beef and pork and chicken, I don't know that it's all that complicated, but like if you have somebody picking your seafood out, like seafood to me is a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah, you definitely got a point with seafood. Once you go seafood, it becomes pretty tough.
I mean,
especially with fish.
There's no going back on a bad piece of fish, man.
No, like shellfish, you can kind of get away with.
Yeah.
But fish,
yeah,
ugh,
it's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. Yeah, I would rather go catch it myself and eat it.
Yeah,
but no, I get it. Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, no. And like the thing a lot of people I don't think realize is these grocery stores, they really don't make money off the curbside stuff.
No,
I mean they're actually, from what I understand, they're still providing it because it's such a popular service.
Yeah,
but they're losing money.
Yeah,
by doing it. They're still making money, but they're not making as much money as they were before.
The prices are slightly higher.
Yep.
We all know that's the case, but slightly higher compared to the amount of money they're paying the pickers. I just don't see that's not going to even out very quickly, So,
all right, man, we've gone wide and narrow.
We sure have.
I think we covered it tonight.
I think we have.
All right,
cool. Well, thank you guys for listening, for tuning into today's episode. If you haven't already, go like and subscribe to all of our channels, YouTube, Facebook, and over there on iTunes. Click us.
Old reliable.
That's right. Give us a 5-star rating and review. We really, really appreciate that. But more than anything, tell your friends about us. And just keep tuning in every Tuesday. We're here all the time. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.